Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Working towards the weekend. I'm out of here tomorrow, so really working towards the weekend from my point of view. But still a lot to cover over the next 2 hours. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Another big injury for the Saints. Yesterday, not today. Yesterday, you already know about it. It's Quincy Riley, but we'll talk about the ramifications of that coming up in 15 minutes. The Saints are practicing today against the Los Angeles Rams. And we'll check in with Luke Johnson in an hour and a half right towards the end of the show when they get finished watching everything. I do know from this point that Myles Garrett's not practicing today. I do know Chris Olave is not practicing today. Those are not injuries. They're just holdouts for veterans. So we'll get some information as to what's going on out there in California from Luke Johnson an hour and a half from right now. I was out at LSU's football practice earlier today. I'll give you my report in 30 minutes. We'll go with another round of Meet the Freshmen with Des Ellis and Braden Allen. Lane Kiffin just met with the media. We'll hear from him coming up in hour number 2. So as you can tell, plenty of football to get to. And we'll start with football on our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
So a lot of this was happening yesterday, but I didn't have enough time to digest it to really pour into it on my show. I wanted to take the 22 hours, I guess, between the end of one show and the beginning of the next to really discuss this temporary restraining order that was granted in Louisiana that will allow, right now, for players who have played 4 years of college from the 2022 freshman class that have moved on to the National Football League that could potentially be cut or released to come back and play a 5th year of college football. This is the reality right now. You may like it, you may hate it. It is the reality. So we need to discuss it because it is pertinent to LSU. Lane Kiffin was asked about this about 15, 20, 30 minutes ago, however long ago that was, within the last hour and a half. And he said, I'm not going to comment on it. There are a lot of layers, but he did go on to answer a question saying most often when you're in the middle of a fall camp, you've kind of got who you got. You can't add, and that's not necessarily the case this year. So here are my thoughts on this. We live in a very, very, very confusing and evolving time in collegiate athletics, and they've essentially been turned into professional athletics. It's very lucrative to play football and baseball at the highest level of collegiate sports, and certainly more lucrative than being cut by the National Football League. So it makes sense financially that players who have been potentially cut on September 1st or previous to that would look into going back into college if that's an option to them granted by the courts. My take on it is this. I don't like the precedent that it would set if Yam Madar comes and plays college basketball at 28 years old, having made multiple $1 million overseas. That, to me, just doesn't sit right. They may have deemed it legal. It just doesn't really sit right with me. By the same token, I'm perfectly fine with Michael Ruzick, who LSU has been courting, who's an 18-year-old who has played professionally in Europe, coming over to play collegiate basketball. That does make sense to me. R.J. Lewis's situation, which is similar to Charles Bediako at Alabama, where they forewent a final year of eligibility, final 2 years of eligibility, and went to the professional ranks. Said, all right, I'm leaving college on my own volition. I'm going to the pros. And then the pros don't work out. Well, I kind of want to go back to college. Can I? I don't love that. In this instance with these football players, if you were in college beginning in 2017, 18, 19, or 20, you got an extra year because of COVID. If you started in 21 or 22, you only get the 4 years to play. But if you started in 23, 24, now all of a sudden you do get a 5th year. The courts have ruled that in the 5 for 5. So there's a 2-year window in here over the course of really almost a decade going backwards, where these players didn't get the 5th year. That's just bad luck. And if the precedent that we're moving forward with is that 5 years is the rule, I don't have a problem with these guys exploring this. I'm a case-by-case guy. I'm a case-by-case arbiter. And I don't like R.J. Lewis's case. I don't think it's good. I would not have liked Jan Madar's case. I don't blame Will Wade for pursuing it. His job is to win basketball games. It's nothing to do with Will Wade pursuing that at all. I'm glad Will Wade's the head basketball coach at LSU because I know he's going to explore avenues for LSU to win games. And he's not cheating. He's seeing what the rules allow. I'm okay with that. And that's what these guys are doing, seeing what the rules allow. And I am okay with this because if Jack Pyburn was 2 years older or 1 year younger, he would have gotten this 5th year. It's bad luck. And if the 5 for 5 is what we're going with, I don't care that he's been practicing with the Buccaneers. I'm okay with it because he didn't leave on his own volition. He was told, you're out of eligibility. Get on with it. Well, now guys who play 4 years of college football don't have to do that. So I'm okay with it. And it's my understanding LSU is going to explore this. And I gather that from Lane Kiffin's answer today where he's like, well, I can't really talk about it as complicated. It wasn't like we don't have any room. And the other part that's, and I tell you all this all the time, that's a little bit confusing from our angle as we're analyzing this and prognosticating on this, I have a hard time keeping up with scholarship numbers. Because some walk-ons have been grandfathered into this new rule where you can have the extended rosters, and then you've got guys that are on significant NIL that maybe aren't getting scholarship, but maybe they are. Like it's just very difficult to keep up from the outside with scholarship numbers. And I also have no earthly idea, none, where LSU is financially according to their threshold. Have they exceeded what they can spend on a roster? Have they bumped up against their cap? Do they have some space? Like, I can go to Spotrac and tell you what the Saints salary cap looks like. You want me to tell you whether or not the Cowboys can add a free agent? I can just look it up. With LSU, I got no idea. So I don't know exactly what their appetite is financially because these guys are not coming back out of the love of football. These guys would be coming back, and there's 16, 17 at this point, because it benefits them financially. Because if you make the practice squad, you're a low 6-figure guy. You could go back to college and make $1 million. Easy. You get cut, that's zero. That's none dollars. You go back to play at Ole Miss or Texas or LSU or Ohio State, what are we talking? $250K, $500K, $750K, $1 million? Yeah. That's a choice most people would make. Because you know what? $500K, better than zero. $500K, better than the practice squad. So this is an avenue that LSU is going to explore. And let's just take Pyburn because it's obvious this is a place that makes sense for him. Matt Moscona has got a story up on LouisianaSports.net where he has spoken with some sources and has gathered the situation here. Pyburn enjoyed his time at LSU. He's good friends with Whit Weeks. His family has a camp on the Tickfall. He is comfortable with Blake Baker's defense. He knows Prince Wilumanmielen because he played at Florida with Prince Liumanmielen, his older brother. He was a special teams player with Joe Houston, who's now LSU special teams coach. Like, there's a ton of things you can connect that are very public information. And oh, by the way, LSU on the edge, Gabriel Elliford out for the year. Damian Shanklin, not with the team. Lamar Brown wasn't at practice today. I don't know the extent of that. He might be back tomorrow. I don't know, but he wasn't practicing today. They're thin at defensive end. Jack Pyburn plays defensive end. So this is not the old days of the NFL where you cut X amount of people this week, and then you play one more preseason game, and you cut another round of people, and then you play the final preseason game, and then you get down to your 53 plus practice squad. This is not that era of the NFL anymore. September 1st, you drop the guillotine, and you keep your roster, and you cut the rest loose. That gives LSU a week before they play Clemson. You want a guy that can contribute against Clemson? Well, it's probably not somebody who's never set foot in Baton Rouge, But somebody that just spent a year here in this defense at that position, who's in game shape from being in an NFL training camp, he could help. And it's at a position of, I would call it a need. Because right now, you've got Prince William Jordan Ross, and then your second team right now is Dylan Carpenter. And, take your pick of one of the guys who's never played before. Now, Lamar Brown's going to be back. He's not significantly injured. And I would expect him back shortly, but he wouldn't practice today. And Gabe Relaford's not coming back. So, yeah, it would make sense. And there are others that you can absolutely connect dots to. And I did that in a piece at LouisianaSports.net for this morning. You've got a couple of players who played at Ole Miss for Lane Kiffin, and they would understand what they're getting into. Daquan White, right, is a tight end who's with Cleveland right now. He made 39 catches for 635 yards and 5 touchdowns for Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis last year. Could he come in and figure things out pretty quickly right behind Trey'Dez Green? Sure. Xavier Harris, defensive tackle, played at Ole Miss last year. 6'8", 330 pounds. Signed with the Saints, undrafted. Saints cut him. Well, what do I see when I go out to LSU's practices every day? I see 2 true freshmen running around defensive tackle. How about a fifth-year guy that's 6'8", 330, that played in the college football playoff last year, was wrecking Georgia's interior defensive line? That makes some sense. Now, Xavier Harris did say some things about Lane Kiffin and trolling and all that kind of stuff, and we'll flesh that out as it comes. But, yeah, as terms of position of need, in terms of a guy that was involved in the injunction, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. There are running backs available out there. Anthony Hankerson from Oregon State, who's a smaller, shiftier guy. TJ Harden jumped in the suit. He played at SMU last year. He actually played here for UCLA. But he's bigger than everybody LSU's got at running back right now. He's currently with the Seahawks, might not make the team. Like, there are guys in this lawsuit that have been granted an injunction that makes sense for LSU. And I fully support Lane Kiffin and Charlie Glasscock's ability to jump in there and add if you've got roster space and if you've got money available. And I don't know the definitive answer to either one. I would suggest if you're over $40 million in expenditure and one of these guys wants $600,000, it's probably in the couch cushion somewhere. It always has been. But I can't tell you that definitively. There are some things in college sports with eligibility issues that I look at and go, I'm not so sure about this. These guys were unlucky because of their birthday, and I'm okay if they come back and play a fifth year. You're not pulling Pro Bowlers back. You're not pulling 4-year pros back. You're not calling 28-year-old guys back. You're not calling 7th-year players back. You're calling guys who weren't given a COVID year like everybody before them and aren't giving a 5th year like everybody after them. They're in a bad luck spot. And I think it's okay if they want to explore college football for one more year. I promise this is not just an LSU thing. There will be people that watch this video on YouTube. There will be people that are listening right now that go, you're just a homer for LSU. No, I just told you. There are 2 basketball guys I look at and go, that I don't really like. Don't love it. This is not like that. This is rectifying a bad luck situation, and I think the courts will uphold it. I know it was done in Louisiana, but I think it will, and I think LSU will explore it. And it would not surprise me at all if 1 or 2 guys from this lawsuit that have been named that have ties to LSU, whether it's having played here or got people on the staff, that are coming out of that tunnel against Clemson. I think it's a real possibility. So our opening drive, we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Saints have had a lot of injuries. The one that we found out about yesterday really is not good, and we'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services, BoudreauxElectrical.com. That's BoudreauxElectrical.com. It is storm season. That makes you nervous because one of those storms crops up there in the Gulf, blows through no matter where you are in the Gulf Coast, and it can knock your power out for an hour, 4 hours, 4 days. We've all been there, right? Give yourself the peace of mind that that's not going to happen to you. Get that Generac home standby generator from Neil Melissa Boudreaux at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. You can call them 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389. Maybe you've just never given it sincere thought. You're thinking, I'd just like to learn more about it. Let them come out. Let them get you a quote. They can do it really quickly. And you can know what it would cost for the peace of mind to know that if your power goes out, it comes right back on. AC's working, refrigerator and freezer working, television working. We like all that. Lights are good too. That Generac home standby generator can make it happen for you. Go online and reach out at boudreauselectrical.com. It's Boudreau's Electrical Services online at boudreauselectrical.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You see a crack in that bathtub, you see a crack in that shower, don't just ignore it. I know it's small, it looks insignificant, and it might be, but it might not be. Because if water gets through there into places it is not supposed to be, you could have serious issues. David sees it all the time. So if you see a crack in that shower, crack in that tub, call One Bath and Closets. Let David come out, because the last thing you want is to kick that can down the road, even if it doesn't crack worse, for 5, 6 months, 7 months, and all of a sudden you've got mold, you've got water getting places you don't want it, you've got rotting, and it becomes a massive job from a small crack. David warned me about this when we sat down last time. He said, I see this all the time. People just see something, a small imperfection. They don't think twice about it. You need to. So if you see something in your bathroom, it doesn't look quite right, contact the professionals. David's been at this for more than 3 decades. He can help you make that fix and perhaps do some renovating in the process. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online and get that free consultation with David Duvall at onebathandclosets.com. Onebathandclosets.com. All right, Saints are on the practice field right now as we speak. We'll talk to Luke Johnson in an hour and 10 minutes about today's workout with the Rams, which I think is really a great thing for the Saints to get into, because that's one of the best rosters in the NFL. But they'll do it without a starting cornerback. Quincy Riley has injured his groin. Kellen Moore talked about it yesterday, and the question was asked, hey, is this something that could linger into the season? And Kellen said, I don't know, we'll see. So that's non-committal, and I would expect that from Kellen Moore, but it certainly wasn't no shot. We expect him back on Saturday. So that's bad. It's just bad, because Quincy Riley is potentially one of the young cornerstones of this defense. He and Kool-Aid McKinstry, by all accounts, have just been awesome in this camp. And that's great. That's a great thing. And a groin injury doesn't mean he wasn't playing great and hasn't improved and can't be a future star. But, just think about this. I know most of you can't relate, myself very much included, with trying to turn and run with an NFL wide receiver or close on an out route. But a groin injury, not ideal for that job performance. And so for that to potentially be a 3 or 4 week deal is a tough thing. And you continue to get these soft tissue injuries day after day after day with the Saints. And this one is so disappointing because of how well he was coming on. You look at what's behind Quincy Riley, and Martin Emerson Jr. immediately kind of is thrust into that spot. And the good news is that Martin Emerson Jr. is still a very young player. I would call him a veteran in the league. He's 3 years in, but he's 25 years old. He's a fourth-year pro. And he's done a good job. Now, that's a guy you were relying on for depth, not as a starting piece, but he will step in there and be the corner opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then you're relying on some guys like Isaac Adam, obviously, who can step in and play. TJ Hall, Dallas Beenham. It drops off pretty quick, is the point I'm saying, after Isaac Adam, who is really best used as an emergency defensive back and a special teams player. So I can say 2 things at one time. One, this is a tough thing in terms of getting reps and the Saints being at their best at corner, because he's not able to go out there and work. You do develop a little bit of depth. You get some good reps for Martin Emerson, who I'm sure is out there right now running around with some really good wide receivers for the Rams. And he's a 4th-year pro, and he's shown he can play at this level. And so you do take a dip, and your depth is obviously hurt. But I think the bigger thing for me is you got to get this guy healthy, and this is a guy who needs to be a cornerstone of what you're doing moving forward. Defense in the National Football League is so much easier to call and play if you trust your 2 corners to do their job. If you don't feel like you've got to help those guys and baby those guys and shade linebackers and shade nickels and shade safeties and take numbers away from the football to deal with space, you can really do something defensively. And the Saints have had that over the years. But you've got to go back like 3-4 years when that was really the case. And they did such a great job under Dennis Allen of cultivating that defensive backfield. And Lattimore was obviously the cornerstone of that. But you also had other players that you really trusted at corner. And I think part of that is why the Saints were so good defending the run for so long, because you had extra numbers to put in the middle of the field. And I think that there may not be a position that I've gotten reports on beyond Chase Young, who's obviously dominated day in and day out. There may not be a position I've gotten more positive reports from Luke Johnson, from Sharif Ishak, from Kat Terrell, from Ross Jackson, from Sean Fassan, from all the people we talked to. There may not have been a position that was talked about more highly than cornerback. Those guys are making plays on the ball every day. They're getting their hands on interceptions. They're breaking passes up. They have been a tag team out there on the Saints wide receiving core. And that's really exciting until you realize Quincy Riley can't be out there. So this is, to me, a completely different soft tissue month-long absence than Cam Jordan and Alvin Kamara. Those guys don't need reps. Those guys are reserve players. They are legends in the franchise. But they're ancillary pieces to this team. Quincy Riley is not a legend in the franchise, long way from it. But he is potentially an elite player on this team. We talk about raising the ceiling for the Saints. How do you get from, okay, we're the dregs of the league, which the Saints were early in the season 2 years ago and early in the season last year, you were among the worst 7 or 8 teams in the league. Fair? Of course. How do you get from that to being very hopeful? Well, you put some young guys on the field and they perform. How do you get from hopeful to being a reality that you're a really good team? Well, those young guys have to emerge as Pro Bowl level players. Those young guys have to emerge as number one level players. And Quincy Riley is on the short list of dudes who look at this year can make that jump. No question. It's him. It's Kelvin Banks. It's Jordan Tyson, unfortunately. These are the guys that can make that jump realistically. And right now, that jump is being stunted in the training room. And that sucks. It just sucks. There's not a lot you can do. There's just not. You look across the NFL, guys are going down every single day. It just is what it is in this sport this time of year. But there are some guys that you would prefer to keep on the field. And while I love Cam Jordan and love Alvin Kamara and do see a role for them on this team, they're down the pecking order here. Quincy Riley is not. So hopefully this is a minor groin issue. That treatment is great. The rest helps him out. And he's out there for week 1. But right now, you're looking at a situation where it might be doubtful that Cam Jordan and Jordan Tyson and Quincy Riley are out there for week 1. Now, doubtful that Alvin Kamara is out there for week 1. I mean, how much more of this can you take? You're supposed to be your healthiest in August and early September. And the Saints are already taking on a little bit of water. It's not a crisis right now. You don't play for 3.5 weeks. But it's disappointing that this continues to happen, and you hope that things clean up pretty quickly. I'll say this in conclusion because that's a cold water segment in a really exciting time of year. I think, let me say this carefully, I think it's a good thing that I'm so upset about this Quincy Riley small injury issue because of how exciting a player he might be, right? If he was just a draft pick from last year who hadn't really shown anything and he limped off the practice field and whatever, I'd be like, well, Quincy Riley's not out there, whatever. But instead, like he's making that jump. He's becoming the starting corner that you love to find in those early to mid rounds. And now he's sidelined, but that hope is what creates that reaction. Hopefully, this is not something that lasts and lingers. Hopefully, it's something that is cleaned up pretty quickly, and he's out there sooner rather than later and shows himself to be a true lockdown corner in this league and somebody that this new iteration of the Saints defense, post DeMario, post Cam, post Tyron, post Lattimore, post those guys, is one of the best players on the field. That's the hope. We'll talk to Luke Johnson coming up in an hour. He's watching right now as the Saints take on the Rams. Bummer news, Jordan. Bummer news on Quincy Riley.
It's bummer news, but I will say to have a guy like Martin Emerson to be the next guy up for that spot, it's not the end of the world.
Young veterans are good to have.
Yeah, most definitely. And, he showed flashes against the Jaguars. So it's like, all right, so this is what he does against low-level competition. So he can hang. So that's a good sign. It's not good to lose Quincy Riley, especially when your first 2 weeks, you got the Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams. You would like to have, you like to have your guys out there for that. Or, the Ravens with Zay Flowers and Jacoby Lane.
You want to go run with Jamison Williams on a bum groin?
No. I mean, his groin's going to fall off his body.
Not ideal.
Yeah. So it sucks that, especially with a soft tissue injury like that, that doesn't just heal.
You got to take time.
When you got to play football. Like, it's always going to be a lingering issue throughout the season until he can get to the offseason and really heal. So that's not good, especially at a position with the cornerback where you have to move with all pro, all level athletes on the other side of the ball. But I will say now you're looking at who's going to step up. I'm already kind of out Yadam. I'm already out on Yadam, so I'm not worried about Yadam. But
okay.
yeah, I'm out of him.
He's probably next.
Yeah, but Emerson and Jaden Price shows a little bit in the slot.
He did.
Maybe Sanker can. I know he's not a cornerback. Sanker can hold it down, and maybe you can bump Price out there or whatnot. But
I can't speak because I didn't see every tweet. I don't know exactly who's practicing for the Rams today. I know Myles Garrett is not, which doesn't affect this conversation. But if those wide receivers are out there,
Puka and
you'll get a look pretty quick at who's ready to play. So we'll see.
They better be ready to play because you got it week 1.
We'll talk to Luke Johnson in 1 hour. When we come back, I was out on the Ponderosa watching LSU practice today. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, LifetimeRoofingLA.com, LifetimeRoofingLA.com. Maybe you know that something's not quite right with your roof, that rain comes down and you feel like there's maybe some damage. Maybe you're just not sure and you want someone to go up there and check it out. You want to go with someone you can trust. In Lifetime Roofing, you can trust. There are so many roofers that will go up there and they'll just try to sell you their most expensive product, and that, of course, is a new roof. But that may not be what's necessary. It may just be a repair. Lifetime Roofing can handle that. It may be a fortification. Maybe there's a little bit of wear and tear on your roof, but you can fortify it, strengthen it with that tune-up so that it's ready to withstand the weather that we've got down here, which is heavy afternoon rains and, of course, hurricanes when they show up. And maybe you do need a new roof. And if you do, Lifetime Roofing can help you with all of that as well. Financing options are available. 0% for 18 months. They can help you with it. And also, they are so proud to offer a lifetime workmanship warranty. So when you're thinking about that new roof, or you're thinking you want someone to go inspect that roof of yours, Lifetime Roofing with that lifetime workmanship warranty. They're online at lifetimeroofing.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. Great spot to get a membership. Always wanted to be a member at a golf club. Swing Easy Golf Club, right there for you. Stop on by before work, stop on by on your lunch break, right after work, on the weekends, Friday nights. It's a great place to socialize, great place to work on your golf game, great place. And the membership will give you some opportunities to get some hours complimentary monthly there at Swing Easy Golf Club. You can also get a corporate membership if you want to entertain clients there. You can absolutely do it. It's a heck of a time. Got cold beers, seltzers, wine right there up front. They've got comfortable seating, private bays. You can play some golf at Pebble Beach or Cypress Point or Bethpage Black or St. Andrews and just have some fun. The weekend's coming up. Want to make a night of a Friday night with some golf? You can play golf at 8 o'clock p.m. Can't do that out on the golf course. You can do it at Swing Easy Golf Club. Just a cool place to hang out. I've loved all the time that we've spent over at Swing Easy Golf Club. I know our Guarantee sales team has spent some time there. I've certainly spent a good amount of time there. If you've never checked it out, do so. It's right there on Segan at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com. All right, I was out at practice earlier today. Myself and Matt Moscona took our normal shift. I took the offense. He took the defense over at practice. And LSU was in shells today. They're very, very deliberate with when they're physical and when they lighten things up, when they get a day off, when they practice in the morning, when they practice in the evening. And today was a shells day as they kind of ramp things up to a Saturday scrimmage. As far as absences today, Lamar Brown was not present. Matt Moscona is reporting over at LouisianaSports.net that the big freshman defensive end suffered a leg injury during Tuesday's practice. He's expected to miss a little bit of time. I don't think Matt's calling for a significant absence here in any way, but we didn't see him at practice today. He was the only notable absence other than Ed Ogeron, who was still not rejoined the team. Back in action is a segment I kind of like a little bit more than the guys that were missing. Malik Blockton was not there participating on Tuesday. He was a full go on Thursday. DJ Pickett was in gold. He is now a full go as of today in his purple jersey. Jordan Ross was in purple back on Tuesday at defensive end. He was a full go today. And then Harlem Berry, who missed a practice and then was off to the side riding the stationary bike on Tuesday, he was back a full participant today. So DJ Pickett, Malik Blockton, Jordan Ross, and Harlem Berry all back today. We looked at the offensive line a little bit today, and I've told y'all this. We have not seen a first team, a second team, a third team, 5 at a time. What we see is the left half of the offensive line working together, and then over 20 yards to the right side of the offensive line working together. And so you take note of who's working with who as opposed to seeing, well, that's the first 5 and that's the second 5. You just look at who's working at guard and tackle together, who's working at center and guard together. Those are the types of things you look at. And we saw today that Ryan Moret was working on sleds at center. He's from South Florida, former Ole Miss commitment, who's a true freshman who they've really liked at center in this fall camp. He was working as a center when they were working the left side of the line. Next to him was William Satterwhite, who was a backup center at Tennessee last year, and I believed to be the backup center now. But what's interesting is we've seen Satterwhite work at center, guard today, and he's worked at tackle as well. And he was working at left guard today next to Moret, and next to them was Bryson Martinez. We did him in Meet the Freshman. Of course, he's from EA right down the road, and they love Bryson Martinez. He's a great athlete, a guy that EA used to snap the ball to, throw it to, hand it to, and he's at 6'5" and 300 pounds. He's just a great athlete. So that was an interesting left side of the backup offensive line. Looks like they're really working Satterwhite at some different places with his versatility. And it's very possible that Bryson Martinez is the left tackle of the future. Jordan Seaton's got 1 year here, and Martinez might be the next guy up. So he's getting some snaps from in that spot. On the passing game, I'm ready to make a declaration here. It doesn't mean I'm right. It's just what I believe from watching practice. We've seen, 9 or 10 of them. I think Trey Wilson from Florida is going to be a starting wide receiver on this team. And you might say, well, he was a 5-star recruit. He was really good at Florida's freshman All-American who was lit up Georgia last year. Duh. And okay, I got you. I understand. But there's 12 guys out there that are new, and none of them to me look like Jamar Chase. I don't see Malik Neighbors out there. I see guys that I think are towards the top. I see guys that I think are towards the bottom. And I would have always told you that Trey Wilson was toward the top. But right now, if you made me say, okay, give me 2 guys, top 2 guys at wide receiver, I would say Jace Brown and Trey Wilson. I'm not here to discount Jackson Harris from Hawaii. I think he's going to play. I'm not here to discount Winnie Watkins. He made a really nice catch on a goal line route today. I think he's going to play. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Brown, the Old Dominion transfer, got in there and got some snaps. I like Phillip Wright's athleticism and explosion. No question. Malik Elzy runs second in a lot of drills and has a physical body, and I know the staff likes him. There are a lot of guys that are going to play. But if you made me right now go, okay, give me the top 2. Give me 2. I'm going Jace Brown from Kansas State, Trey Wilson from Florida. I've just seen so much of him working first on one side of the field. I noticed that he and Sam Levitt talk a lot. I'm reading context clues. This is what I have to do if they don't let us watch 7-on-7 and they don't let us watch 11-on-11, which, by the way, as I've said, that's Lane's prerogative. I'm good with it, but this is what I get to look at. So I'm looking at quarterback engagement with players. And if Sam Levitt thinks a guy's running 9th at wide receiver, I don't think he's going to spend a lot of time with him. There's not enough time to go do that. He's trying to learn an offense, learn a receiving core, all from scratch with no spring football. I'm working with the guys who are going to be out there. And I think that Trey Wilson is one of those guys. And when I noticed this back to the spring, he is so explosive in and out of breaks. He's so shifty and so quick. There's a reason why a 5'11" wide receiver is a 5-star recruit. And it's not because he looks like Randy Moss out there. It's because he's got some attributes that are elite. And the quickness and change of direction from Trey Wilson is that. So I liked what I saw from Trey Wilson today, and I'm ready to make that proclamation. As far as some of the other things in the passing game, they got the quarterbacks off platform a little bit today, more than we've seen at all in fall camp. We saw Sam Levitt rolling right hard. We saw Sam Levitt rolling left hard. A lot of it was done in the red zone and goal line areas. Again, he's not full sprint. He's not stopping and starting. He's not juking linebackers. He's not beating anybody to the edge. He's rolling out. And I'm not here to give you a bill of goods. That's not true. I'm telling you exactly what we see. He looks healthy. And I don't have any reason to doubt it. But when we see something, I'm going to say something. It is kind of the gig on the radio. So Levitt looked very comfortable moving to his left, looked very comfortable moving to his right. He's full speed out there, and that's a very good thing. Here's something just to file away. I have mentioned it. I think it was last week, perhaps the second week of fall camp, but I think I've mentioned it. They work on an inordinate amount of back shoulder throws, like a ton. And today, inside the 5-yard line and the goal line, we saw a lot of back shoulder throws, including some to Trey'Dez Green. I don't know if that's the guy that I want to throw back shoulders to. I'm just throwing him alley-oops. But they did work a lot on back shoulders. They do that with Trey Wilson. They do that with Jace Brown. They're going to throw back shoulders. And there's two things with back shoulder throws. One, they're very difficult. One, to throw and to defend. Two, they can be very susceptible to the interception if the corner gets his head around. You're betting the corner doesn't get his head around. And it takes some time to get that rapport to be able to throw that back shoulder, right? I don't think, Breeze and Colston had a lot of trouble year 5 knocking down the back shoulder throw on the seam route. But right now, Sam Levitt is still learning these guys, and they rep back shoulders down the rail. They rep back shoulders in the end zone to the pylon. They rep these things constantly. And I think you're going to see a lot of back shoulder throws from this offense. I think that's something they really think they can do that's effective against a lot of defenses, especially college defenders that are not as good at getting their head around as pro corners like we watch on Sundays. You just see it a lot. So that was kind of my synopsis of today out there on the Ponderosa. Good from a health perspective. The only guy missing that has been there all fall is Lamar Brown. Lane Kiffin was not asked about Lamar Brown today, so I don't have an update on that. But they're getting through camp in a positive light, and we'll hear from Lane Kiffin in hour number 2. He really likes the way Sam Levitt's playing. He really likes the way that the offensive line's first team is playing. Depth is a bit of a concern. But we'll hear a little bit more from Lane Kiffin coming up in hour number 2. But that's my thought on practice. If you like to read our practice report, you can always do that over at LouisianaSports.net. Is there for free. Myself and Matt Moscona put those together every time we're allowed to go out there. I'm going to head out for the weekend right before football season here, so Matt will handle things Friday and Saturday from that perspective. But every time there's a practice, we got you covered over at LouisianaSports.net for free. You can read it on the homepage. And Ross Jackson's out in California handling the Saints. If you want to check that out, you can do that as well at LouisianaSports.net. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll meet the freshmen. 2 more next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. Awesome deals on trucks. I'm not going to stop telling you about them until those deals are gone, and that is September 1st. So you still got a little time, but get on by and see them. Want a 2026 Chevy Silverado 1500? 0% APR financing for 5 years plus. No monthly payments for 90 days. That's now until August 31st. And 2026 GMC Sierra 1500s, 2.9 APR financing for 72 months plus an additional $1,500 in allowance. That's now until August 31st. Great selection of pre-owned vehicles that are going to fit any budget. So if you need a new ride, maybe your lease is about to be up, maybe your car is at its bare end, or maybe you just want a new ride, Fabry Chevrolet GMC is happy to help you out with that. Check out the inventory on Highway 61 in St. Francisville, or check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Sagrera Farms brings you our Thursday shows every single week. Some of the best beef in the country, and it's right here just north of Baton Rouge in the 225 area code. All you got to do is call Sean. He's at 225-719-1723. Again, that's 719-1723. Go up and see the farm. Say, hey, I got a text from someone this week. Said I went to the farm, picked up half a cow, just thrilled with it. Got that this week. Not the first time I've gotten that text message, but you won't know unless you go change the way you buy your beef. You want prime Angus beef for all your ground beef? Think of how often you use that. For steaks, football season's coming up. You want ribeyes, strips on the grill. You want fillets on the grill. You want the best. Segura Farms has got it. You just got to go see Sean. It's a process that he has mastered over the course of a decade. And every cow on that farm is a 3-year journey. Genetics, and then you're raised on grass, finished on grain, dry age 45 days, the marbling, the tenderness, the flavor. It's second to none. You can get Segura Farms beef 2 places, Supper Club or Segura Farms. That's it. So call Sean, 225-719-1723. Say, hey, I heard Hunt talking about you. I want to come see. You won't regret it. And if you don't like it, you don't pay for it. It's awesome. Segura Farms Premium Angus beef. All right, let's meet the freshman.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
This first one just screams Corey Raymond. Des Ellis from Winsboro, Louisiana, played at Franklin Parish, is a 3-star cornerback in this class. He was 3 stars by Rivals, 3 stars by ESPN. 24/7 threw a 4-star on him, said he was the number 10 player in the state of Louisiana, but only 24/7, who thinks the most of Ellis, had him as the number 218 player in the country. So not a high-profile recruit, but he's 6'2", 185. He did everything for Franklin Parish, played quarterback, great athlete, great reach, and a guy that Corey Raymond feels like he can coach. And so you bring him into the boat. And I think that this is the kind of guy that's not going to help you in year one. He's not going to challenge DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland for playing time. He's not going to beat out Jakeem Jackson. But you give him some time, and you let Corey Raymond work with him. This is a guy that threw for 2,400 yards and 26 touchdowns as a sophomore in high school. As a junior, he threw for 2,100 yards and 31 touchdowns. He ran for almost 900 yards and 10 scores. He's a great athlete with the attributes that Corey wants. And that is a guy that I trust Corey Raymond implicitly to mold into a good player over time. It's going to take time. He's going to learn how to backpedal, how to use his hands, how to flip his hips, how to play the ball. But that's what Corey's the best at. So this is a guy that makes a ton of sense to me. If you're looking at this team, does he help? Probably not. If you're looking at the future, okay, that's a guy you can bet on with Corey Raymond. So Des Ellis, our first freshman of the day. And the second one's Braden Allen. And this is another one who's not going to be the most highly coveted player on the board for LSU. You're talking about 24/7 called him a 3-star, number 19 player in Louisiana. ESPN called him a 3-star, number 24 player in Louisiana, 93rd best wide receiver. Now, Rivals liked him a little bit more, called him number 33 wide receiver and a 4-star, but not a guy that is going to, do huge numbers for you on the recruiting rankings. But he's 6'1", and he's a guy that Lane Kiffin identified out of the state of Louisiana that he wanted. Now, LSU's previous staff was not interested. But when Lane Kiffin got the job, you saw Braden Allen decommit from Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden, he's committed to LSU. And Lane Kiffin and his staff believe in their evaluation. And it's a guy that they wanted at Ole Miss, and now they bring him in from Lafayette Christian Academy to LSU. Comes from 2A, obviously, but was a really, really productive player at the high school level. As a senior, had 11 touchdown catches, 740 yards, and he also played defense, made 34 tackles, had a couple of picks, had a pick 6 and a punt return touchdown as a senior. Good athlete, good size, and again, not a guy that is going to necessarily impact this team. They got so many guys at wide receiver that are older. Jace Brown, Trey Wilson, Jackson Harris. The list goes on and on. Malik Elsey's old. You're not going to count on freshman receivers on this team. But I trust Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock to make it work, to go find guys that they think fit their system that have the attributes they're looking for. And they identified Brandon Allen with Corey Barber as the 2 receivers they wanted in this class. So Louisiana kid, both of them, Des Ellis and Braden Allen, not guys that are going to be 5-star recruits, but guys that are from Louisiana. that perhaps you've got a better chance to keep around, even if they don't play as freshmen, which is something you got to consider. And guys that the position coaches and decision makers identified traits and characteristics in that they think make sense for this program. And I like that a lot. I like having some guys from Louisiana on this roster. I realize it's not what it once was in terms of having Louisiana guys, because you can just go get Jordan Seaton and Ty Benefield, and you can go get, TJ Dottery and go find Dylan Jones. And yeah, I got you. You don't need the state of Louisiana all the time. Chase Brown's not from Louisiana, neither is Trey Wilson. None of those wide receivers. Winnie Watkins isn't from Louisiana. It's good to have a little bit of that, especially some guys that are a little bit off the radar, because we know that those guys oftentimes turn into really productive players in Baton Rouge. So that's Meet the Freshmen today. Des Ellis and Braden Allen. Taylor Sharp will be sitting in for me tomorrow, and he'll keep that rolling on tomorrow's show as we continue to knock off every freshman in this signing class for LSU in our series. That's it for hour number one. It's a busy hour number one. At the top of the show, I talked about the new hot button here with LSU and with college football is these players filing for that injunction and getting that temporary restraining order that allows them to play a fifth year of college football. What does that mean for LSU? What does it mean for Jack Pyburn? Are there guys that played at Ole Miss for Lane Kiffin that might be interested in coming to LSU, and does it make sense to add them? I talked about that at the top of the show. You can find that wherever you find your podcast at Hunt on LSU. Quincy Riley's hurt for the Saints. That's a huge bummer. I talked about that. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. A practice report from today out of the Ponderosa. You can listen to that on demand, or you can read about it at louisianasports.net. That's hour number one here. Busy hour number two. We'll hear from Lane Kiffin, some quotes from him today. As he talked about his quarterbacks. He talked about defensive line. Also talked about Charlie Weiss at length and what he brings to this staff. So we'll hear from him coming up, and Luke Johnson in 35 minutes from the Saints practice with the Rams out in California. We'll pause for SportsCenter, national headlines. We'll come back with hour two, Thursday edition Hunt Palmer.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. They're online at gotrosonline.com, and you can go there, and you'll see their incredible inventory, and you'll see the great deals that they have. But I'd just advise you to stop on by, because right now they're running their end-of-summer clearance sale, and it is worth seeing. Because if you stop by, there are two locations, one on Airline in Baton Rouge or one in Gonzales, you'll see up to $1,000 off select Gravely, Skag, and Hustler zero-turn mowers. Again, that's up to $1,000 off select Gravely, Skag, and Hustler zero-turn mowers. Need financing? They got it at 0%. You can't do any better than that. Of course, Gotros, the National Hustler Deal of the Year, 2 of the last 3 years. And if you're looking for an extended warranty, they've got one. They're the warrantor. You can add 2 years or 200 hours to the manufacturer's warranty if you talk to my friends at Gotros Outdoor Power. 2 locations, Airline in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. Gotros Outdoor Power. They're online at gotrosonline.com.